now at 5.
We're going to do the 46th G7 Summit on June 10th through June 12th at the Trump National Doral facility in Miami, Florida.
The world's leaders are coming to Doral.
We thought of the 12 places that we looked at, and you'd recognize the names of them if we told you what they were, that this was by far and away the best choice.
Tonight, the impact we'll see from the G7 Summit in South Florida.
Now, today's announcement does not come without controversy.
Ethics watchdogs are already criticizing the event scheduled for June 10th through 12th, 2020. CBS 4's Amber Diaz is live tonight in Doral with more on today's big announcement. Amber.
Well, there's a lot of concern around this decision because many believe President Donald Trump will be profiting off of hosting next year's G7 summit right here at his private club right in Doral. But acting White House Chief of Staff says the president's brand doesn't need a boost, and it's all about bringing world leaders together.
Face it, he'd be criticized regardless of what he chose to do.
President Donald Trump will host the 2020 G7 Summit of World Leaders at Trump National Doral, Miami. The announcement comes 2 months after he teased the possibility at the most recent G7 summit in France.
It's a wonderful place. It's a very, very successful area of Florida.
President Trump says the location is perfect, close to Miami's international airport, and offers plenty of hotel rooms and separate buildings for every delegation. The decision, however, does not come without controversy. Some believe the president will profit from hosting a major event at his own private club. Acting White House Chief of Staff responds to the concern.
We play golf at Trump Bedminster. He goes to play golf at Trump up in Sterling. And everybody who asks the question, is it not a huge marketing opportunity? I would simply ask you all to consider the possibility that Donald Trump's brand is probably strong enough as it is, and he doesn't need any more help on that. This is not like it's the most recognizable name in the English language and probably around the world right now.
And Doral's mayor responded to the news, saying Miami-Dade has hosted major events for decades, and the G7 will be a welcome addition that will highlight to the world Greater Miami's cultural appeal and global diversity. Our county stands ready to work with federal officials on any security concerns and logistical matters. I welcome the opportunity to showcase our community and the leaders of the G7 nations. For now, we're live in Doral. Amber Diaz, CBS 4 News.
Okay, Amber, thank you.
The spillover effect from that, even at cost, is very good for whatever event locale you choose. But again, they are arguing that this is not a violation of the Emoluments Clause where someone is profiting off of something. I believe Judge Napolitano has a different notion of that. What do you think?
Well, Neil, it's not my notion, it's the Constitution's notion. When the Constitution does not address profits, it addresses any present, as in a gift, any emolument, as in cash, of any kind whatever, I'm quoting the Emoluments Clause, from any king, prince, or foreign state. So if this were a meeting of the governors of the United States, there'd be no Emoluments Clause problem. The purpose of the Emoluments Clause is to keep the President of the United States of America from profiting off of foreign money. Here we go again, not in the campaign, but in some event or entity that he controls or is running. He has bought himself an enormous headache now with the choice of this. This is about as direct and profound a violation of the Emoluments Clause as one could create.
All right, we should explain again, doing a little bit of research here, for the Trump business, and I'm not saying this is the president himself, but it extended to his family, this particular locale is the biggest moneymaker for the Trump family. So I know a little bit, having covered numerous G7 events all over the world over my career, whatever you might lose, because they probably do lose a little bit, given the fact that no one else can go to these venues when the world leaders are there, so it's in lockdown. But again, the carryover, the spillover, that if you go to Sea Island today, they still have the flags of the countries and trees that were planted. It's a great draw to people who visit. Wow, this is where the foreign leaders are. So it has a spillover effect.
Well, most respectfully, Mr. Mulvaney's focus on profit, while it may make sense in the economic world, is not what the framers were concerned about. They were concerned about a gift or cash coming directly or indirectly to the President of the United States, even if it's done at a loss. Now, the President owns shares of stock in a corporation that is one of the owners of this, along with many other investors. He also owns shares of stock in the corporation that manages it. So those corporations will receive a great deal of money from foreign heads of state because this is there. That's exactly what the Emoluments Clause was written to prohibit.
And it does lift the status of the resort in question. Now, Nick Mulvaney was saying that, you know, we looked at all the this is the only one we could find. Well, I'm not a golfer. I play miniature golf, so that might count. But there are tons of them around everywhere. Now, I understand with this particular facility, it is large enough to accommodate everybody. They can all be on site. To hear Nick Mulvaney say, I think that was the same at Sea Island. It was certainly that way at Camp David if all the leaders wanted to stay in the neighborhood. So there's an appeal from a security perspective, but if it has the name Trump on it, I think you would bend over backwards to avoid that.
One would think so, but you know the president, he likes a fight, and he's just picked another one.
All right, so where does this go?
I would imagine someone will file another lawsuit. There's 2 Emoluments Clause lawsuits going on now, one in Baltimore and one in Washington, D.C. Those are active, live cases. Expect a third one probably in the federal district court in the southern part of Florida.
All right, just to add a little bit, as the judge is talking here, a little bit from this Miami New Times. It's a weekly Miami area paper. It looks at business in the Miami area. And it had said that revenue had been plummeting at the property since 2015. Now, a consultant told them at the time for the Trump organization and tax officials commenting on this, that in late 2018, the resort was, quote unquote, severely underperforming when compared to comparable hotel properties in South Florida. It could be the name or the brand, Trump, the controversy generating when he first announced he was running for president. It's not a reflection on the president here and about his business acumen, just the controversy the name generates. But again, to avoid any appearance of favoring one property over the other, the administration has gone headfirst into what could be a very controversial back and forth as to whether that would be the best location. To the judge's point, the president has decided that's where it's going to be. More after this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. G7 summits have been held for decades, so how can you make the argument that this is the best place to hold it? Surely there were other places that this could be held, and you can't make the argument that the president's not going to profit because we can't know how much he might profit in the future, right?
Yeah, to your first point, again, I think it's the profit one. Again, he's not making any money off of this, just like he's not making any money from working here. And if you think it's going to help his brand, that's great, but I would suggest that he probably doesn't need much help promoting his brand. So we'll put the profit one aside and deal with a perfect place. I mean, who was here for the last time was at Camp David? Was that the perfect place? In fact, I understand the folks who participated in it hated it and thought it was a miserable place to have the G7. It was way too small. It was way too remote. My understanding is the media didn't like it because you had to drive an hour in a bus to get there either way.
I take your point, but there have been other G7 summits. I've attended numerous G7 summits that have been perfectly fine according to the leaders. How can the White House really make the argument that this was the only place that the G7 summit could be?
It's not the only place. It's the best place. Those are two different things, okay? But we had dates.
There may be other good places without the
There's
president.
plenty of other good places in this country to hold a large event. There's no question about it. Some of the limitations, we wanted it at a specific time. We wanted it in early June, so that limits it a little bit. Then there's difficulties with going various places. Some places don't have the transportation that you need. I mean, there was one place, I won't say where it was, where we actually had to figure out if we were going to have oxygen tanks for the participants because of the altitude. So yeah, there's limitations at other places. We thought of the 12 places that we looked at, and you'd recognize the names of them if we told you what they were, that this was by far and away the best choice. Yes, ma'am.
Very quickly, this is a business of optics. How is the president going to stand on a debate stage if, in fact, Vice President Biden wins the nomination and try to make an argument that he profited off of his vice presidency?
He's going to do that extraordinarily well. Yes, ma'am.